Here's the bottom line. My biggest takeaway from the vice presidential debate is that Tim Walz and JD Vance are kind of in a closeted love affair. And we're going to talk about it. This is What the Fuck America. It's politics for cool people and culture for smart people. The Recount had a VP debate watch party, and I didn't expect what happened would actually happen. Bullshit. Look at you. A Democrat quoting a Bible verse on national TV? Say it ain't so. JD Vance is just locked in. He kind of likes Tim Walz, doesn't he? Excuse me, she just tried not to laugh asking that question. Oh, they cut his mic. 20% of the world's fresh water is in Minnesota? That can't be true, babe. There's no way.
We've seen it in Minnesota that really drills down on the connection.
Okay, yeah, that's literally not true.
Resources.
Are these two gonna save us? I know, it's supposed to be 9 minutes. They love to fucking talk. As much as I would love this to be a reaction video, we're actually here with the Recount's senior political correspondent, Steve Morris, to make sense of this entire night. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. I'll do my best not to react at all.
No, I need your reaction, but we're going to put it in context. That's what we're here for. The first thing I want to ask about, I remember back in the day, the years of lore, Donald Trump said that his issue with Ron DeSantis, one of many, was that he needed a personality transplant, and those were not yet available. I'm looking at JD Vance tonight and saying, well, somebody successfully got a personality transplant. Yeah. He needed to come on stage and say, I am not a policy candidate. I'm also a vibes candidate. And on the other side of the stage, we had a guy, Tim Walz, who needed to say, I'm not just a personality candidate, I'm also a policy candidate. How do you feel they both fared in those respective goals tonight?
I think it's a really interesting way to look at it. I think, they both had like different mandates coming into this, right? JD Vance wanted people to look at him as more warm and cool and kind and empathetic and insert whatever more adjective you want. And Tim Walz, who's relatively popular by national standards, wanted people to just kind of continue seeing him that way, but also translate some of his like success he's had in how people view him as a person into how people view the Harris-Walz ticket on immigration, crime, whatever. And I think they both did their job, right? Like, I mean, it's always a question of like, what are you trying to do in a VP debate, right? Like, what do you think the goal of this really was? To me, the goal of both of them was to do no harm. That's the most like eye-rolly, like I read the New York Times live blog, whatever. But like, that is at the end of the day, it's a cliche because that's what people want to do.
Yeah, I mean, like the second JD Vance waded into personality game, I was like, oh, it feels kind of weird. Like the suit doesn't fit in that way. And the second Tim Walz was getting entrenched in all of this policy stuff, I was like, oh my God, America is literally laying the head down on the pillow. So I'm actually not sure that either candidate showed up and gave the people what they were waiting for. Yeah. It should have been somewhere in the middle, but did they achieve their aims in showing the public that Tim Walz can talk about policy and JD Vance can talk about
human emotions? Yeah.
Vibes. Exactly.
Yeah, I think so. I mean, fortunately, there were around 12 undecided voters who watched this. So I don't think either of them hurt their ticket's chances of winning. Yeah.
I do want to take a second to talk a little bit about the moderators tonight. Yeah. Their whole thing was like, we're not going to fact check anybody. Tell me if you feel the same way. To be interjecting themselves in a very specific way. Yeah. It was very pointed. It almost felt more political and opinionated than them just fact checking it outright. How did you feel about what they did? Did they intervene in the right places and in a way that felt neutral to you or not?
Yeah, I didn't know what to expect with the fact checking because, like, last time the ABC moderators, David Muir and Lindsay Davis, made a specific choice to announce it before and say this is what we're going to do. And then this time there was this weird kind of ambiguous announcement about maybe we're not going to do that. And then this time they did do fact checking, but it was more like context. It was more like adding something on. It wasn't specifically saying actually that is incorrect. It was more adding something to the discussion at the end of the discussion. So I thought it was a little disorganized almost.
I would say like it wasn't poorly done, but it was tactical in a way that they did not necessarily put forth.
Yeah.
They did not establish that, oh, we're not fact checking, but we're going to weave it into a response to an answer in a way that maybe people will pick up what we're putting down.
Yeah.
And I was like, girl, we see you, basically. It was the response that I had. Mm-hmm. One of the very interesting things that I saw them doing as well was, it felt like they were trying, and not just them, Tim Walz as well, trying to put a wedge between JD Vance and Donald Trump.
Yeah.
I didn't expect that at all. Can you talk to me a little bit about how you received that? Were you expecting that?
Yeah, I mean, that to me was the most interesting and important thing to take away from it. Not because it'll like change any votes or anything, but just because it indicates to me that there's something going on under the hood of what the Harris-Walz campaign is seeing. Because like anytime you see a politician repeat something over and over in a speech or a debate, it means usually that they have tested it in focus groups polling and they know that it like is working on people. So when Tim Walz said repeatedly, I like what JD Vance is saying, but you know who doesn't like it is Donald Trump. I think it indicated to me that like you have Kamala Harris and Tim Walz and kind of JD Vance over here, and then Donald Trump is all the way over here. He's extreme. He's crazy. You can't trust him. Don't put him back in the White House. Even his running mate disagrees with him. Like that's the vibe that they're trying to create. Whether or not that succeeds, who knows? But that was my takeaway from it. I don't know if did that track for you?
Yeah, I was going to say that felt super new.
Yeah.
I've never seen like that isolationist policy anywhere else other than, you know, foreign policy elsewhere on the globe. I'm curious what you thought were both of their two worst moments. I know it's so hard to like actually isolate and think about because it was a weird debate. I'm not sure I've ever watched something like that. Tim Walz's worst moment was, I'm a knucklehead, in response to not knowing the exact dates he was in China, Tiananmen Square, 1989, all that jazz. And then JD Vance was maybe more subtle, and probably not a lot of people would agree with me on this, but JD Vance said, we want all women to choose when it came to paid family leave, where actually maybe 90 seconds to 2 minutes before that, he was like talking about women and abortion and explicitly not saying either thing. Those were moments very different in the way that they land with potential voters, but that would be my low point, my thorn, as people say, rose and thorn for each candidate.
Yeah. I mean, it's always funny analyzing this stuff because it's like, is the worst moment when they did the worst based off of like debate club rules of like you didn't respond to this well or whatever, or is the worst what actually moves undecided voters? And in an era in which undecided voters barely exist and barely move at all, like what do you actually use as the criteria for what the worst moment is, blah, 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 whatever. But like, to me, I would say the worst for Walz was, I would agree, talking about the inconsistencies in his bio. It was funny to me that the moderators kind of used China and that trip as a shorthand when there's actually like a longer list of things, which is what makes the question interesting. But if you aren't aware of those other inconsistencies, then you're just like, why is a whole fucking 2.5 minute segment being spent on this goddamn China trip? Like the reason we're asking about it is because it's emblematic of a larger pattern, but they didn't get to that. So, but regardless, his answer to that, pretty garbage. I don't think any debate prep person in the world would have recommended that he do that. And then for Vance, I would say his answer to either the democracy and the certification of the election thing, because that's just going to get pickup and airplay on TV and in papers, which again might reach undecided voters. Or I would really say his answer on healthcare, because it was just so zigzaggy. Donald Trump saved Obamacare, and I have family who benefited from private. Like, it was just totally intellectually inconsistent. Neither of those were great shining moments for Ohio's junior senator, in my view.
Like, when I think about the ways that they were interacting with each other, I would definitely say that it was not what I expected.
Yeah.
Literally, like, come here, BB. At one point, I was like, they were at the beginning. Oh, you don't even know Gen Z. You don't even know Gen Z like that. Yes, girl. At the beginning of every answer, they were signaling, like, love you, babe, but about to drag you to filth. And I was like, why are they actually going, I somewhat agree with what Tim Walz says. I somewhat agree with what Kamala Harris is proposing on this point. I was like, what the fuck are these two saying to each other? Why are they prefacing everything like that? Did that strike you as weird, or am I in a fucking silo by myself on this one?
Yeah, I think that was weird for a couple reasons. Number one, I mean, it's not super weird in the grand scheme of vice presidential debates. Those are always a little lower stakes, a little less conflict driven than presidential debates because, like, who cares? You're the vice president. But in recent years, you had Pence against Harris in 2020, which was not convivial. You had Kane against Pence in 2016, which was like, blah, who cares, whatever. 2012, Biden against Ryan was super combative. Biden came out there to, like, really do some numbers.
But kind of sexy.
Which one?
Por qué no los dos?
I don't believe in objectifying male politicians. I listen to their ideas. But I guess in recent years, the past decade, like, we've seen an evolution from that. So that's part of why I think it hit different. That's number one. The number two part is just, like, I'm still a little confused on it, but Vance had an agenda of coming out and, like, reassuring people, I am not what you've seen on your Twitter feed, your TikTok feed, your Instagram, whatever. Like, I am normal. But I don't think it was that the dynamic was built on their interaction as much as they both came in separately deciding on that. And that just happened to be the case for both of them. You know what I mean? But it was weird. It felt a little weird, didn't it?
It felt a little weird, but at the same time, it felt a little of the way that I feel when I interact with people who I disagree with ideologically, which is, we may not disagree on how to get there, but the place that we want to go is the same place. Yeah. Our eventual destination is where we agree on that. Yeah. So that felt a little reassuring to me in some ways.
I mean, I would just say, like, as recently as, like, the 2000s, this was the way we had presidential debates. With that being said, though, the rejoinder to that is, like, it's a good thing for the parties to disagree. Like we saw the products of too much agreement when, we had the Iraq War and the financial crisis and whatever. It's an interesting discussion, but sure, great to see people agree. Yeah.
It's great to see people agree, and unfortunately, this will be the last time we see it because as of today, there are no more presidential debates or vice presidential debates scheduled. So we will have to find something the fuck else to talk about. And make sure you're subscribed to WTF America so you don't miss that conversation whenever it happens. See you.